New year, same great savings. All in the Kroger app.
Mix or match and get delicious Kroger brand pasta, Rotel diced tomatoes, Chef Boyardee pasta, and more. 10 for $10. Then get flavorful medium Hass avocados, 3 for $2, all with your card.
Shop these deals at your local Kroger, less than 5 miles away. Or click the screen now to download the Kroger app to save big today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
When something happens to your car, you might say,
"No! My car!"
But what you really need to say is something that can actually help.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And just like that, State Farm is there to help you file your claim right on the State Farm mobile app. So just remember, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right?
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Ooh, pass me the intercom thingy.
Attention shoppers. If you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Everyone to the school board meeting tonight, January 10th. The purpose of this meeting is to interview candidates for the Director of School Search. And tonight we have with us Mr. Corey Duke. We want to thank you for coming and interviewing with us.
Thank you.
The way we're doing this interview is we have a list of questions that were composed based on the surveys, and we have them divided into categories, and we're each going to take a category, and we may have follow-up questions based on your responses.
Yes, ma'am.
We've all had a chance to review your resume. Is there anything additional you want us to know?
Sure. Born and raised in Dickson County. Grew up in Charlotte. I was a 96 graduate from Dickson County High School. Went to college, met my wife there, Hillary Duke. We moved back to Dickson. I've talked her into coming back to Dickson with some help from some other people, but we got her back to Dickson here where we're raising our two kids. Autumn Duke, who is a junior now at Dickson County High School, and Roger at Burns Middle School. He's in 8th grade. So family man, will do about anything for those guys. That's the main reason why I'm here tonight. So,
what will you do to create an atmosphere in the schools that will lead to educational excellence for all students?
Setting expectations, high expectations for those guys. It's one thing to say that we got high expectations for our students here, and it's another to kind of execute that. So we can talk all we want. One thing that I'm going to do different is be with our teachers, our staff, our students, to display what I'm talking about when I say high excellence. Again, we can sit here and say, hey, we're going to raise test scores. Ultimately, we want our kids to be better when they leave here. So it's not about a test score, it's about the children. Our staff, we need to set expectations for those guys to push our students up. And really the only way for me to execute that out is not just to sit back and bark orders, but to be with them, to be by, to say hi, to check in on those guys, to make sure that stuff is getting taken care of. Making sure they're seeing that, and also not just seeing me there for that purpose, but to see that I'm a support for them as well, and not just someone that's barking orders.
What do you consider to be the major strengths that you would bring to this position?
My major strengths, calmness, teamwork, consistency. Those are traits that I see myself having that I excel at. Like I think, you talk about calmness. People have asked me all week, hey, are you nervous about this? Not really. This isn't the big part of my week. This week I get to go back and do our opening banquet for the very baseball where I played baseball at. The head coach is still there. So it's like, y'all are intimidating or whatever, but like you go talk to your old coach. That's intimidating, right? And I'm there to present. So that's going to be the big part of my week. So just staying calm through stuff like that. A lot of times you have problems come through the door. You don't know what the problem is until it's in and you're getting barked at, right? If I were to react with it, then I just intensify the whole situation and make it worse. So being able to sit back calmly, listen to what they have to say, I think is a big plus for me. Teamwork, again, I ran our guys up. I've been at Dickson County now for 6 weeks. When we came back, I finally got to present to the faculty. And one of the things that I presented to them was a rubber band. For instance, it was rubber bands, like how do we work together? So I took a rubber band and broke the rubber band, right? Saying that as one, we're nothing. Like this is how easy we can be pulled apart as one. And I grab a handful of rubber bands and pull them apart, and you can't break that. So it's showing that by being together, being on the same page and working as one, we are better and stronger than we are as individuals. So I told them that just to show, this is what we're working for. This is what we're working to do, is not be individuals, not silos in the classroom where you're by yourself, but we're here as a group. And my part is just as important as yours. And my support for you is very important. So those are the strengths that I see. And then consistency, just being consistent with what you do. Every aspect, from school discipline all the way up to like how we address our kids, when they come to the classroom, having that consistency where when a child steps in the school building, this is a normal day for them. Every day should be normal. There are some children out there that live in turmoil constantly. So I want a place that's set where they come in and they know what to expect every day. That way they can perform at their best. So those are the strengths that I
Thank you.
Mr. Duke, thank you for being here tonight. You mentioned in one of your answers that you would listen to what they have to say, and that's my criterion. We're looking for someone that has exceptional listening skills with a commitment to accessibility and an open door policy. For us, what evidence can you cite that would show that you are a good listener? We could go with thousands just this year alone. I'll take one of the latest ones that we've seen. We had a mom come in. She was upset. This is kind of hard, too, from my standpoint. It's like trying not to name names or pin somebody out, especially with them being in the county. So we had an issue. Do I need to get, is it broad enough? Just whatever you feel
go ahead. Okay. I don't want to get into actually what the issue was, but she called the afternoon beforehand, and I didn't have a chance to call her back. And I think in the message that she left with me, she said, I'll be at the school first thing in the morning. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this is great. I would rather talk to you face to face anyway. So I waited till she got there, went out, told her I'll be there in just a minute. Let me clean up what we got going on. She came back, and you could just see the anger in her face. She was mad, and rightfully so with the situation that we had. I sat her down, and I simply asked her, I said, what is going on? And about 10 minutes later, she cleaned up what she was telling me. So it took her a while to get it out. All I did was listen. She needed a voice to, a place to express herself, to tell me the problem. And I assured her afterwards, I said, I don't know if I can give you the answer right now. At the time, it was like 4 weeks in, maybe 5. But I was like, I'm not sure what our answer is. I don't know what protocol is, in particular with this situation. I said, I'll find out. I said, these are the steps that we need to take at this point. So that's one of many. Most of the time when you see an angry parent come in, or anybody for that matter, listening to their point of view and finding out what the problem is and the issue is, means just about as much as anything that I can say back. I may not have the direct answer for them at that time, but we'll do what we got to find it out, but they want to be heard. And that is what I try to do with that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that part of it is being heard, and so give us an example of when you have changed your mind and taken a different course of action as a result of listening to others.
The big thing that I have done at every school I started, this is the 4th school I've been at as the head principal in Dickson County. One of the first things I get together is a leadership group of teachers. I usually allow the staff to pick those out. I don't want somebody that's going to overrun everybody, but most of the time the staff does a great job of picking who they think their leaders are in the building. I would say 99% of the time that happens. So the leadership team comes in, and I throw ideas off of them. I know that by myself, I am not the smartest guy in the room with every aspect of school. There's no way. There are people that are going to be experts in different areas than I am. So I try to utilize everybody and utilize their point of view. Because a lot of times my point of view when I have an answer for something may come off brash. Just right off rough. So using those guys to bounce ideas off of and let them bounce ideas off of myself to make the school better. There's been plenty of times that we went into a leadership team meeting to decide something, how to address stuff. I think the latest one you guys have heard of is the dress code, right? So the leadership team came up with that. We talked through it, what the best way, what we needed to do, how could we address it discipline-wise all the way through. I missed a step. I didn't check to make sure 100% that they needed to come to the board. So, that part was on me, but our leadership team changed the mind on that because I don't care what the kids come in necessarily. I mean, obviously they don't need to be something that's offensive by any means, but we're going to educate them regardless of what they're wearing. So they decided that we needed to tighten up on that. So that kind of changed my mind. And once they changed my mind on that, that's what we had decided as a group. Then that's the route we took. So,
okay. All right. In your administration, what avenues are open for you to listen to the concerns of employees, students, and parents and the community? And follow up, how would you plan to have that time available for all of those folks involved?
I know you said open door. Obviously, I think I've got an open door. If somebody comes up, they may have to sit out and wait for just a little while. Somebody from the community wants to come talk. I may be in the middle of something they didn't pre-register or, sign up to have a meeting with me or whatnot. But I try to have a talk with them at that point. Typically, they're a lot madder at that time than they are any other time. But I would rather listen to them then and find out what the problem is and try to get it addressed. I kind of upfront with them about that I may not have the answer right now. An example of that, where we talk about faculty, me being open to them. I think the first day on November the 27th of this past November, when I took over at Dickson County High School, the first thing I did was introduce myself through an email. Obviously, we don't have time for a faculty meeting for that when it failed, but I gave them all my phone number and I asked them all to text me. Just so that they had that open line of communication, whether it's email or now my phone, to talk to me if they have questions. So I think at one point I looked down that first day and I think I had 90 text messages. I did answer them all back. Thank you. And we moved on. But, just that right there assures a lot of people too that I'm here for you. And that's what we ultimately want to set. Is that I'm here for you. So, finding time to do that is key in my book.
Okay. Just as a follow-up, you mentioned kind of the faculty and maybe the students. How would your leadership style incorporate inclusivity of different groups, be it parents or just different groups from the county into your leadership?
The leadership, like a leadership team or anything?
Leadership team or just in general?
In general.
From parents or from just any number of groups?
Well, obviously, you're going to have a certain group that's going to come see you anyway, right? So the other thing that I'm out in the community, so there's nights that I'm at Walmart. There's nights that I'm at Kroger. Look, I'm approachable. Sometimes this ugly face doesn't look like that, but I try to encourage people, like, I'm not going to bite your head off. Come talk to me. Those times are fine. My wife gets on to me all the time because I'll stop and talk school. If I can get somebody's ear bent at Walmart and talk to them for a little while about what's going on at the school, it makes a big impact because then they're not hearing misinformation and believing those things over what I'm saying. That's. I don't know, that those are things that I would do. Those are things that I see as a plus. And then just trying to get out and find those guys. So, obviously there's people that are on the car rider line. There are people that are out at Walmart, is trying to find a variety of them out there in different spots and meet them where they're at to get them to come with me and at least listen or see if they would like to be on an advisory with that. So
I coming from Charlotte long ago, there are a lot of people from over in Charlotte. I was in Creekwood for a while. So with that marriage, it's also, I'm looking at people from White Bluff, family members all over the county to get me into an area. So then just being able to talk to those guys and get them recruited to come in.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Dr. Duke?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming tonight, and I want to take a minute to thank you for applying. Make the comment Monday, and I hope to make it with the other applicants too, that by applying for this job, that you really put yourself out there. It's probably not what anybody else could imagine, and it's the only job in the school system, and by far, I'm trying to think of other jobs that actually have to interview in public, have to do it with cameras in front of them, and with 6 people that probably have the same exposure. So I understand what you deal with, and I appreciate it because it's a big step.
Thank you.
With that, of the 10 criteria, I have number 2. Number 2 reads the people that fill the survey out want a director who speaks and writes effectively to communicate the successes as well as the needs of the school system. So under that category, I have 2 questions. Number 1 is, what evidence can you cite to demonstrate you are an effective communicator?
Earlier, I believe we were talking about a call out that Dr. McCord sent out. Let's rewind back to when we were over Creekwood. We were having issues getting to everybody. I went out, personally, my team, we were trying to find a way to talk to our parents quickly and get them informed about stuff that was coming up. We've tried writing papers, sending them home through students. Sometimes that works, especially at the high school level. It gets lost in the backpack or the trash can before they leave the school campus. So we were trying to find a way to do that, and also inform people about absences, and a lot of things were tied in with this. So we got to researching around and actually found the call out system. So Creekwood High School back at that time got a sponsor to pay for that for our school at the time. So to me, that is started with my vision, then everybody else kind of jumped on with that, which is great. Now the call outs, sometimes they'll answer them, sometimes they won't. We look at the results from them. You can see a result on there, how many people picked up on the first time, how many people let it go to voicemail, how many people picked up and hung up. So at that point, I was like, all right, this is not becoming a convenience anymore. It's seen as a nuisance. So text messages are big. The same program at the time when we were at DIS had the ability to do it, but we weren't utilizing it at the time. So I pushed again for that. And then instead of doing a call out where you've got to listen to the information now at your convenience, you get a text message that shows you all the prudent information that you need. So those are 2 ways that I've seen and tried to utilize to get some communication around. Obviously, we try other ways as well. Twitter works for certain groups. Trying to get the information out on the website. At that point, people had to fish for it. But we try to get the information out as much as possible with whatever means we think are going to be the most effective.
And second, what have you done to help the public understand the needs and successes of your school system?
Of the school system itself?
I think you can refer to your school.
School. Okay. With successes, you're out. You're out constantly, especially if you're in the community, you're out constantly bragging on that stuff. It amazes me daily to see what these kids can do in the school building, what our staff is doing to prepare those kids to do those things. That's the easy part. The needs come in and it's like, all right, we did budgets this week. We're talking money. There's not a lot of money out there. We see a lot of money, but it's earmarked for different things, or it's not enough to get what we want. We also know there's projects coming down the road that are going to cost us money that we're trying to save some money for. So there's a lot of, it's like, all right, then it gets to be, all right, do we raise taxes for that or what? How do we get these funds? A lot of times what I would do, especially from the school standpoint, is to go around and start talking to people. You know, being around and knowing the people that are in the community make a big difference, because I know who to call at Burns Middle School. I knew who to call if I needed something. We needed a cross-country track. We were coming from out at Burns Middle School all the way to Buckner Park when we opened the school up, and we've got all that. I mean, y'all been out there. It's a humongous campus as far as acreage. There is a lot of room for cross-country to be over there. They shouldn't be coming to Buckner Park. So we had a parent group, you know, we showed the need, talked to the right people, got them involved. Before I knew it, I think there's still several loads of mulch that are sitting over there. We had people cleaning out paths through the woods, and they were taking the mulch and putting it down. The guy I called about the mulch had more over there before I could get, like, stop. We have enough. But I mean, you know, it's getting out communicating. It's knowing who to talk to about the needs that you have. So I just see it as being in the community helps with that. Being out, you know, being at the ball field, being at a game. Those are big opportunities to get out and let people know what we need, what our successes are, and really squash out like some of the false information out there about, you know, where the money comes from, what we have. So,
thank you.
Thank you for applying. I've seen you in action in Discovery and Creekwood. It takes a bit of wisdom to know when to change or when a change is necessary, and the ability then to generate the change even when there's not going to be opposition for it. What kind of a significant change have you initiated in your school? And tell us what evidence you had to show that it was a possible change.
So, kind of take over one of the first big changes I made when I took over at Creekwood High School. When I took over at Creekwood High School, we were at 78% on our graduation rate. The state was about to come in. I think we were a year out from the state coming in to take over the school back then under the guidelines that we had. It was not good. So we knew we needed a big change. And we did a lot. We dove in, did the research on what needed to be changed. And what we saw, the majority of the kids that we had coming through that were not graduating were falling behind as freshmen. They were coming out of their freshman year with 2, 1, maybe 3 credits and keeping on that path through the rest of their high school career. Well, even if you're getting 3 for 4, I mean, that's 12 credits and we graduate with 21. So they were not being put in a spot or starting in a spot that allowed them to get ready for graduation. So we developed through our leadership team started looking at a freshman academy. The freshman academy, we had 2 teams on our freshman academy at that time is what we needed to educate those kids. We had 6 teachers on each hallway that taught stuff from wellness to English and math. But if a student was in a hallway A, they had the same English, math, science, social studies, world history at the time, and PE teacher, wellness teacher. They had the same one. They also had a principal that was over that, as well as a guidance counselor. So we set those guys up to be successful. They had a common planning period, not where they talked necessarily about algebra or geometry. They're subject specific. They had some times to do that, but most of the time they had was developed to help those students get through 9th grade successfully. After that first year, our success rate, back then we didn't measure a lot of things. So like 9th grade success rate wasn't something that stuck out in my mind as things that we measured, but we knew it wasn't good. After that first year and every year after that, we were at a 100% promotion rate from our 9th grade. Not that, hey, we gave them the grade and they moved on. they were caught early and moved on. In order to be considered a promotion, they had to have 5 credits. They were a possible 6. So to have 100% of our kids come out of that freshman academy with at least 5 credits put them in line to graduate. We had a couple of other issues that we dealt with as well. Tracking, kids would say they were moving from here to Chicago, for instance. We never got a request for transcript to come back. So that student stayed on our roll. Well, obviously they didn't graduate because they weren't here. We lost that child. So we got that tracking down with a graduation coach that actually helped keep track of like where everybody's at all 4 years. We looked at things like virtual high school to help students that maybe their sophomore or junior year something tragic happened, and got them out of kilter from graduation and ways for them to earn credits back before their senior year. So long story right there to get to this right here. Our graduation rate went from, I think the first year went from 78% to 92, and then it went up to 96 once we got that group of freshmen up to their senior year. So that was a big change of a mindset. High school at that time was like, hey, we want to be involved in everything high school. It wasn't that they weren't involved. But that was the message that started to get out. So the way that we kind of held that and made that better as well was the leadership team helped get some information out. Those teachers that were in the freshman academy understood what they were doing in their projects. They got that information out. So it kind of snuffed that out pretty quick that this is not a junior high. This is still part of the high school. We're just going to make sure that you come in and are successful to start with. We got a little bit more support for those guys to get them through. So I hope that answered your question.
What kind of support? Any opposition to doing the academy or?
There was, yes, because a lot of people thought that it was like a junior high. They wanted to be in the high school. You know, they thought we were punishing.
Just from the students.
Just from the students. The parents were too. They were like, well, my kid won't be able to do band. And we got around all that stuff. We figured ways to get through there for those that were wanting to do band. Obviously, as a high school, I want them involved in whatever we can get them involved in, whether it's football, whether it's baseball, whether it's band, theater, junior ROTC. Love all the programs that we have. They're very very beneficial for everybody. We don't want to hold them back from that. So the concept when we started this was that we were taking that away from them. So it was kind of an opposition there to start with. But again, by the time we started presenting that out, there was enough people around to kind of snuff it out pretty quick. So trying to be on the front end of when we get a change, anytime you make a major change, you want to try to be as much on the front end as you can so that you're not battling those like constant like misinformation battles all the time.
Well, what about initiatives that you learned through research? How do you apply those to derive change? How would you use it to derive change in the system?
Probably the biggest initiative that I remember here lately that we did was learning by doing, an educational way, a way of our teachers teaching the curriculum. Learning by doing, ask 4 simple questions. You know, what do we want the students to learn? How are we going to know that they learned it? What are we going to do if they didn't learn it? And then what are we going to do if they already know it? That has been a process our instructional coaches have been an integral part of. Obviously, this is all stuff that's planned through the teachers. Trying to get teachers to work together with no governance sometimes doesn't work. Some teachers are great. They're going to plan and they're going to plan together with people regardless because they know that together they can make a better product than they can if they work in a silo. Some teachers like their way they've always done it, and this is the way we've done it. So that initiative was trying to get a group of people that have different thought processes together and how to make a better product for our students.
So it starts with a planning. We have a common planning, and we start asking the questions. What do we want our kids to know? We want guaranteed and viable curriculum, which means that, you look at biology, there are a lot of different standards that are thrown out from Tennessee State. We don't have time to cover them all. Not all of them are tested. Some of them are tested more than others. So we need to know that part of it. Like, all right, so this is a very important part of biology. We need to make sure that they learn this. So that's got to be guaranteed. Like, there's no doubt every kid that walks through here is going to know this right here. This is kind of secondary. So if they already know it, we kind of look at that fourth answer or the fourth question. The answer is like, well, they know this stuff. What are we going to do with these guys? Well, here's a perfect opportunity to push them along and like learn some of those extra standards that we don't have time to teach or guarantee that we're teaching, right? So that process is started through planning, and it is anytime you got something like that big a change, and changing it over is something that's got to be repeated over and over and over again. So we work with our teachers. I work with the teachers. Our instructional coaches have worked with the teachers to make sure that they're working through that process and perfecting it. And then again, you can always perfect that even better. Like, we can narrow down the standards. The standards change. We have the process in place to make sure that we've got the education through our teachers on how to make those changes as well.
Thank you.
Questions?
Dr. Duke, you mentioned, and you were asked about research. How important is research or data, I guess, if you will, in decision-making that you're talking about? Data drives us, and I know how to read and do all the research. I'm going to say, obviously, I have my doctorate, so I've been through research classes. We know how to read data. That's a portion of the pie. If I've got somebody that has been killing it in English, but they're ready to retire because they're done with tests or they're burnt out. There's definitely other factors that go in besides this is a level 5 teacher because they know how to teach this subject. You're also looking at kids too. It's not a data. Those guys, we utilize their data a lot to kind of push them along, but at the end of the day, that's a child. It's not something that we're going to sit here and say that's a number. I definitely don't want that. So data is important. It kind of gives us the direction, but at the end of the day, it's what's best for the child. And there's a couple more factors in it than just data. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, I've got number 4. Mr. Duke, I appreciate you being here with us and taking the time. I know you said you weren't nervous, and that's good. But I know it does take a lot of time.
The camera's a little different.
And prep, sure. So this criteria has to do with being a respected instructional leader. We want someone that has a strong academic background. Want somebody that understands the day-to-day operation of the classroom and understands curriculum in the education program. So I've got a fairly long group of questions I'm going to ask you real fast. First one is this. Describe your experience in developing, implementing, and evaluating an instructional program that has improved the educational achievements of the students.
And I think I hit on that just a little while ago with the learning by doing. To me, we've been around. So we'll start with this. I had to fight that for a long time, the instructional leadership look for me. I have a great education from Berry College. And I am not knocking anybody else's education by any means. I think, we kind of discussed that earlier of the grading stuff that we were talking about. So definitely wouldn't put myself on a pedestal above someone else. But coming from a PE background, and I also have an athletic training degree as well. So not only do I know the PE part of it, it's a little more medical stuff that's involved in it. So it was a little deeper than just physical education. Typically, when you come out and you start trying to talk to a math teacher about mathematics curriculum and how to run a classroom as a PE teacher, they laugh at you. So as the instructional person at Creekwood High School, that was a battle that I took on. I think that people have seen me around enough. They understand my background with what I see as effective, what is effective. We've got enough, we did enough work at DIS. We did enough work at Burns Middle School, and we're starting at Dickson County High School. It's a different outlook at me than it was when I was at Creekwood. So I battled the whole instructional stuff. I don't think you can take anybody, maybe at the elementary level, that can teach K through 6 or K through 5. They may be able to teach every subject through there, maybe. But when you get to high school and you start talking about, like, all right, we got auto mechanics, we have geometry, we have health science classes, nutrition. No one is going to be an expert in any of those fields, or at least they may be in one field, but they're not going to be in several fields. What you see, though, is there are common procedures that you can do through the class that's going to make it more effective. That's one thing we talked about with learning by doing, is regardless of what subject you are teaching, those 4 questions come back. What do we want the kids to learn? How are we going to make sure they learn that? That's through the testing stuff that we do. It might be a classroom test or an assessment, walking out the door, a bell ringer, any kind of way of assessing those children. The third question being, what are we going to do if they don't get it? How are we reteaching it? What are we doing to reiterate that information again? And then what are we doing if they have learned it? So I was in the forefront with the learning by doing and trying to get that to our staff, and that has really impacted. You look at Burns Middle School, it's been a level 5. A level 5 school. DIS was a level 5 school. What I attribute that to is the fact that we did learning by doing, which increased what we were teaching our students, how we were teaching it, how we were getting back, reiterating the stuff that needed to be taught, and then what we were doing with the kids that already learned it. So,
what steps would you take to ensure academic excellence in all of your schools?
It comes up with the expectation for me. I love to celebrate stuff, but it's short-lived in the fact that, like, we've got, I don't know, I guess it's a mindset from where my college days, it was like, all right, we won a ball game, we got 10 minutes, we're fixing to play the next one. We don't have time to celebrate that. So that expectation, the high expectation for me is like, all right, I'm going to give you a high five. That was great. Now, what's next? It's always sitting, what's next? Obviously, when you look at that, there's a folding point for everybody. Like, this is just too much. Like, if I'm going to squat, at some point, I'm going to get under a weight that I can't squat anymore. So how do we get to that? We want to get you up as high as we can get you. And then once we get there, we're fixing to move it. It might take us longer, but we're going to continue to move up. But we got to have that mindset of we're not quitting. Just because we hit our goal, all right, now the goal moves up. So high expectations, setting those relationships, again, being involved, being out in the schools with these guys as they're pushing through these things, giving them a little motivational speech every now and then. Those are things that I see that will help that high expectation.
Yeah, but, as far as the students go, though, when our students leave Dickson County school system, what 3 things do you want them to be sure that they have to take with them when they leave here?
When they leave here, I want them to be able to set that. I want them, first off, I want them better when they leave than when they got here. That's the first thing. Second, I want them to be able to set those goals for themselves. I would like to see them be able to say, you know what, that's great, but what's next as far as making me better? And
I'd like to see good citizens. They've been held accountable for stuff, whatever it is, academics, behavior, getting to school on time, whatever. But they take those skills that they've learned for being consistent to the job or their life. Let alone a job. I mean, you don't show up for your job, you're late for your job a couple of times, it's, bye-bye, or we're getting written up. There's a lot of trails that goes with that, but life doesn't allow you to quit, So being able to take those aspects out into the world would be great.
No quitters. I'm writing
No quitters.
that down when they leave here. This might be a little redundant because you might have spoke about it a little bit, but one of the questions was what do you consider to be your major accomplishment as a school instructional leader?
There's been a bunch. Yeah. And we've been a level 5 school. When I went into Creekwood, our math scores, our index on that was a -28. I think a few years, the next year after we started looking at it and got it, it was like a -6, which is still not great. But that's a big jump to go from -28 to 6. Those are great. The biggest thing that I've seen that we've done is that graduation rate. We've got 18% more kids that went out that year than would have with a diploma. And to me, that means more than anything that I could have done with any other aspect, because that impacts their life. The numbers might impact ours. We get to celebrate, right? That we were a level 5 school. That's great. It really is. They did the work for it. But at the end of the day, they don't have a diploma in their hand. And when they come out with that diploma now, when there's that many students that were coming out with a diploma, that's what I'm most proud about.
You mentioned that your kids were one of the most important things in your life.
Yes, sir.
What are the 3 most important things in your life?
God, my family, and the way I attack life. I exercise quite frequently. So without that, those 3 things right there is what drives my life. I think if you've ever received an email from me, there's drive down at the bottom. Everybody always asks, what does drive mean? Determination, respect. Gosh, y'all put me on the spot now. I'll come back to I'll come back to the I, vision, and then exercise is the last one. Integrity, I believe, was the I. So, but yeah, those are the most 3 important things to me.
Okay. Any questions?
Do jumping jacks.
Yeah. Are you going to have to do some type of?
You see all those old videos of the PE stuff where, the president's physical fitness tests and all. And
I'm for it.
Yes.
Any type of calisthenics probably won't hurt us.
So my research, my dissertation was over how exercise impacts the classroom. And we found out that exercise actually increases memory. So it was a marginal, it's like 94.5. If I can explain all that stuff later on. But anyway, yes.
I see you working out around town. I see that drive. I do recognize that by seeing you around the community doing that. Mr. Vanderboard, I don't always agree. That can be one that I'm not going to do the council.
That's okay. Hey, you can come watch.
We can
come watch. I'll talk to you afterwards.
I like this program.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have banana pudding.
When you
y'all can sit over and eat your banana pudding. I'm not going to say anything. I'll watch.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's back to that inclusivity.
Yeah. We don't discriminate, right? That's it. We don't. If you want to come on. I'll definitely talk to you afterwards.
Dr. Duke, to echo the other board members, I appreciate you applying for this job. And
thank you.
So I was talking to somebody after watching our other candidate earlier in the week. It's a tough spot to sit with a microphone, a camera, and 6 people when you do a job interview. So thank you for applying. Number 5 has the ability to unify diverse groups and build and maintain high morale among the employees. So a few questions here. How can you bring together a diverse, talented group of individuals to form an effective team?
So we talked a little bit. I got you. We talked a little bit about the rubber band stuff. You know, so I've been in athletics since I was 4. You know, I went through college to play ball. Not only play ball, when we got up there, we had a pitching staff that I pretty much handled. We had our pitching coach that showed them the techniques and all. But I learned pretty quick that it's hard for the coach to coach a pitcher on the mound when I'm right there 60 foot from him. So I learned to do what I had to do to make sure that pitcher was effective, because our whole team depended on him to throw strikes, get a batter's out, throw the ball to the spot, you know, whatever it took. So I took pride in the fact that I called all pitches all through college. I did that. I took that on. I learned the pitchers. That was a skill that I learned to do just out of trial and error. Like what made one pitcher work didn't work for another one. But we all had to work as a group. So that mentality, it's hard for me to explain how to make a group of diverse people into a unit, because it's almost second nature to me. I've been doing it so long. It's, you know, it's like, I don't know how you change a tire. You know, it's like, how do you start off explaining that? Because it's, you know, it's second nature. You know, this is what we do. So whatever it takes, building those guys up, having the open door policy, talking to them, finding something out about them, you know, knowing stuff about them, having conversations, not necessarily had anything to do with education, but just like showing that you care is where it starts. And the more you do that, the bigger bond you're going to build with the people around you. And once you start building that bond and putting people together and with a common goal of educating students, then that's definitely possible and easy to do, and easy to accomplish.
Describe a situation related to your current job that demonstrates your ability to inspire and motivate people. Or your
okay, I was going to say I got 6 weeks. I got 6 weeks. Well, I'll even go with the 6 week portion right there. You know, again, we did one little team building exercise, and it was just basically me talking to them, talking through the rubber band situation. But we also did another one, a team building exercise, where we put a tarp down on the floor, and we actually came in groups. So there's about 20 teachers in each room each time that they came through. We were on a 10 by 10 tarp, so there's not a lot of room. I think if you stood together, you know, with your shoulders up, you might be able to get about everybody in a 5 by 10 square of that. So I told them, all right, very simple instructions for me. You got to turn the tarp over. The only thing is, all of you have to be standing on it, and nobody can be off. Have at it. As soon as everybody's on the tarp, I started the time, and we, you know, kind of made a little competition out of it as well. So what they saw out of that was, first off, there's about 1 million ways to skin a cat, so to speak, how to turn the tarp over. And every group, with the exception of one, got the tarp turned over. The group that didn't, we were about 12 minutes in, and I was like, this is going a little long, so I just said, everybody stand on one side. I'm going to kind of walk you through this. So I started it for them, and before, like, as soon as I got it turned the way that I needed to go, stepped off and let them finish it. They led the rest of the group. So that doesn't sound like much. It sounded like a fun activity. What everybody learned from that is they got a little refresher course of like, hey, we are here for a common goal, not turning the tarp over, but to teach the kids, to educate these kids that come through Dickson County High School. We need to work together to do that. So I at the time of year it's at, you know, people are coming back from Christmas break, they're recharged up a little bit, but to see the excitement in their eyes, to see the unity with them at that point was great, and hopefully a little small motivation for them.
So can you give us an example of what you've done to maintain high morale in your staff?
So we've tried everything. I mean, we've, you know, taking chocolates around and cold drinks and giving extra planning periods.
Food helps.
It helps. We've done, as faculty stuff, it's like, all right, come down today for lunch. We've done all that stuff. That helps. It definitely makes the day a little brighter anyway. But the long haul, the next week when you're not doing it, what's happening? It comes down to relationships, knowing the people around, talking to them. Hey, I know you had a hard day yesterday. Everything all right? Had nothing to do with school, but, they had something going on outside of school that they know that I know about now. And that vested interest for me improves their morale because they know I care. And that's ultimately where it comes and starts. And you hope with that right there, the retention rate continues to go. Through the last few years, we've had a hard time school-wide, and I won't say school-wide, district-wide, retaining teachers. I mean, that's no hidden secret. I will say that I feel like the staff that has been under me has been pretty loyal to me because they know that, we're worried about data. We're worried about all that stuff. We're worried about the kids mostly, but they also know that I'm worried about them, and I want them to be the best that they can be. So it's all about building relationships.
I want to follow up on one, Ms. Brogdon. And I know you said earlier about as you select your leadership teams. I'm going to kind of follow up on the first question I asked. When we asked about how do you bring the talented group together for a team, how do you go into a position that already has a talented, diverse group team that's in place? How do you get them to work for you like they work for their previous employer?
First off, it's great that I'm just kind of reading into this. You're talking about the district staff, and I think the district staff is awesome. I mean, just first off, I've seen them at work. I know what they're doing. My job at that point is not to come in and tell them how to do it. They know how to do it. My job is to just hold them accountable for what they're doing. Not letting them slack off, but not coming in and telling them this is your new directive, this is how you're going to do it. I was joking around with my wife today. She said, yeah, Corey doesn't do a whole lot at home with the books, the checkbook. And I was like, that's on you because you gave it to me for a week. And the next thing I know, you were mad at me because I didn't know the exact dollar and cent amount to tell you without looking. And she took it back over, which is fine. That if you want to do it that way, that's fine, but you're going to do it. And not saying that that's my job at the school level, at the district level would be just to make sure, hold people accountable for what they're doing, not come in and change a lot of stuff. They know what they're doing. They're talented. I think if I come in under those premises of do your job, me trying to figure out what you're doing so that I'm more educated about it, allows them to show their talent and hopefully build some trust in them that I got their back. And that's the best way that I know to get those guys to keep doing their talents that they're doing and me just come in and glorify it. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chadwick.
I go back to a question that Joe asked about your desire to make sure that our students are graduating with academic excellence.
Yes, sir.
What if you were to hear, say, from in a roundabout way, or ever how you might hear it from some of the local colleges, universities, or whatever, Dickson County students used to come to us. They were pretty good, and we've noticed in the last few years they don't seem to be at the same achievement level. What would you do?
First thing we've already started kind of hitting on some of that stuff. We come in. First off, I want you to understand too, I think a lot more students are trying to go to college now than they ever have. So, some of it is going to be just the amount of people.
It goes back to data.
Yeah, some of it goes back to that. So we addressed something to start with. Midterms were right around the time when I came in. The checkouts were ridiculous up at Dickson County High School. So my first question when I come in is like, All right, do we need midterms? Obviously, somebody's not taking them very serious. You know, we're wasting time. There's maybe 6 days that we could put back in the classroom if we just ran a regular schedule through those days instead of doing midterms. That was the first question I asked our leadership team. We've met twice. They have changed my mind on taking midterms out completely, just saying no midterms. They think similar stuff. One of them was they need to have the skills to take tests for college. Now, granted, we're testing our kids several times through there, but some of our teachers are not. So it comes to the point now is like the leader at Dickson County High School. All right, so we need midterms. Then what do we need to do for those? Because the ultimate question for all of that is what's going to make us better? What's going to make the students better? Is it taking a midterm? Is it being in class 6 extra days so that when we get ready for our final at the end, we're better? And they're still in discussions with that. But they have already changed my mind a little bit on what I thought. Because I'm like, if midterms are not going to be held important, what do we need to do? Well, if they are going to be important and we are going to have them in, then our staff's going to be held accountable for that. So we'll have to come up with a plan for that as well.
I think we're going to take like a 5-minute break.
That'll work.
And we'll come back.
Thank you,
We're
ma'am.
halfway through.
Oh, no worries.
For great deals on food for $1, $2, or $3 when you buy a medium or larger coffee. America runs on Dunkin. Exclude specialty donuts and fancies. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms and exclusions apply.
Okay, we're going to start back. The next criterion, which is number 6, says, seeks information and ideas relative to the problem, makes decisions that demonstrate fairness, impartial judgment, appropriate analysis, and sensitivity for those affected by the decisions. So the first question, think of a problem brought to you recently. What was the problem and how did you handle it?
So we had an issue, let's see, Monday or Tuesday. Again, I hate this right here. It's trying to be as sensitive as we can. We had an issue at a sporting event with some of the team players that didn't get on the bus. On the way home, we had to come back and get them. That is embarrassing, first off, from our standpoint, that we did that. I hate to say it is a comedy of errors, but it was a few errors in the way. Had coach clean the room, the locker room out, come out, make sure everybody was out, but he had somebody else checking people off to leave the bus, to get on the bus or ride home with parents. I don't know if you know much about our bus trips and stuff like that with varsity basketball. The girls take a bus. So there's a bus that goes early. And there may be 3. I think there's just 2 buses that go, one for JV and the girls, cheerleaders, everybody that's there the whole time. And then one that comes after with the varsity basketball being, there's probably 6 of them on the school bus at that point. But when they come back, they have the cheerleading team. They have all of the men's basketball team at that point. So there's a transition to who's riding a bus when and back and forth. Obviously, that's not something we're going to do. We're going to change our procedure and how we do it real quick. So the parents are upset about that, and I don't blame them. Called again. I just answered the phone, asked what the problem was, and please explain. And they went on the conversation for a while, and I'm actively listening to what's going on, and I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm like, we got to change. Obviously, I don't want to make a rash decision on what we're going to do. But I told them, first off, coach will be addressed. Again, in my mind, there's not a reason for them to understand what all goes on with that, because that has to do with me and the coach. We talked through the process of what we're going to do with that, with the coach, what we're going to do different, how we're going to change our procedures to make sure that happens. I just told them, I promise you the procedures will be changed from now on. I promise you this is going to be addressed. You're going to have to trust that I'm not just sweeping this under the rug. That's something we don't want to do. Is it something that's easily done? Yes. You're talking about a bunch of kids getting on the school bus and being responsible for it. They're sitting down in the chair. Everybody's hollering and hooting, especially if you won the ball game. And they had won that ball game that night, so everybody's excited. Nobody's sitting still. You're trying to take a head count. And you want to get home. And then to boot it all, it was raining. So, we're trying to get on the school bus quickly. So I understand why we did it. I don't like it. We fixed some things on how we're going to take roll when we get back on the school bus. But that's an issue that I feel like that answers that question.
Tell us about the most important decision you've made in your last or current position. How did it involve the people who would be affected by that decision? Again, we kind of hit this is a unique spot. I've been at Dickson County High School now for 6 weeks and at Burns Middle School before that. Every decision we make impacts a lot of people for different reasons as well. So when we get into that, any kind of decision that I make like that right there, for instance, midterms, I could have easily just come in and said it's a waste of time and we're not even going to discuss it and this is what's happening next time. But I know there's some value from everybody else's opinion, and I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I got to rely on everybody around, especially coming into Dickson County High School. I don't know exactly every in and out
I'm still learning where the bathrooms are at, so having their opinion on it makes a big impact because it impacts them ultimately. It impacts our students at the end of the day. Are they better prepared for college? So me making a decision based off of effective time in the classroom, or is it better for the students? There's more people that need to be involved than just me. So, if we come in and we start talking about it and they wanted to get rid of it, the next step probably would have been to bring some parents in and talk to them and say, all right, so this is what we've got. This is what we're looking at. What are your thoughts on this? I tell our leadership team, you're going to be in the decision. A lot of times I'm going to follow what you say. We're going to do what you ask, just because I know that if they get their mindset on something and they want to accomplish that the way they're wanting to do it, they're going to get it done. But I also want to bring in the parents on that aspect too and make sure that we're impacting the students in the right way. So, but at the end of the day, it's my call. I'm not going to sit here and say if it flopped, the fact that we didn't take midterms, if it flops, it's my fault. I'll stand up and say that. But it's involvement that's it takes quite a few more people than me to make my decision on what we're going to do.
All right. So criteria number 7 considers your ability to work with the county commission and to develop and administer a comprehensive school budget that includes allocation of resources and the understanding of federal, state, and local funding issues. So it's an important topic. Explain how you would develop a school system budget and tell us who would you involve and how would you involve?
Obviously, you guys are going to be part of the driving force for this. We definitely need a leadership team from the district standpoint, input from our schools, chatting with the commission, not just on the night I come up and say, hey, we need this much money. Those are things that you hope you start building relationships with not only you all on the board, but also the commission, the mayor, other officials around the district, around Dickson, so that we can come up with a comprehensive budget that will allow us to be successful, but also understand that there are limitations in what we can get. Sometimes that involves cutting things and moving things around if we see something that is more effective than what we presently have. Again, I can put my personal thought on it, but I don't think that would be a good representation of you guys as well as me if I just relied on myself. It's a team effort. And if we're not going to get a team together for that, then I'm putting us all up on the chopping block. Nobody will like that because there'll be a lot of stuff that I think is important and I don't know the whole background to it. I want to come in and find out why are we spending that much money in this area? There's got to be a reason. We didn't just do it because that's the way it's always been. Maybe it has. All right. At that point, if it's always been that way, is it effective that way? Those are the questions that will be asking through there. It may be something that we just started. Well, why are we putting that money there? Well, this is the reason. Perfect. That's all I needed. I needed to know the why and the impact it's going to make for us. So, hopefully, like I said, we can work with the commission on those things. Again, I think a lot of it comes back to the relationships and being upfront with them and being transparent, not trying to slide things through. Really being upfront with what we need. This is why we need it. And if they look at us and go, well, that's not possible, but we can't do that. We don't have enough money for that. Then it's like, all right, is it important for us? And at that point, do we need to find out what we need to do on our end? Being told no does not bother me at all. First off, if you don't ask, you can't be told no. Second, if you tell me no, that's fine. I'm going to find a way to make what we need possible, or try to find a way, not illegally, not backdoor. We're going to find a way. And
it comes back to, again, old mentalities of myself. We're playing a game and our starting pitcher's arm's hurt. Well, does that mean we quit playing? Does that mean we don't show up that day? We're going to show up, and our objective is to win that ball game. And the same thing here. My mindset has always been that way. It's like whatever it takes to win that.
Okay. What steps would you take to ensure school funds are spent wisely and accounted for properly and in compliance with state and federal mandates?
So again, our finance director is going to make sure all those procedures and stuff are laid out. I think we've got a pretty good job of laying those out right now. Again, my objective is just to make sure they're being done. I don't think there's any reason to change a lot of the policies and procedures that we have around those. Maybe one thing that would help us with that is just educating people of what we can spend those on. I mean, obviously, you get funds. You look at Dickson County right now, and it's the amount of money that we have in the school system or the school itself looks outrageous. It's like we need to have all these needs that we have. Why can't we just buy it? Well, part of that money is earmarked for just this. So finding ways to spend that money and maybe reallocate some money that was being spent for that area. If we find a grant, grants are notorious for having to be spent on certain things. You can only spend it on this. Well, we might be able to move some money around for that we've allocated for that to put into a general fund or something that we can buy those things. But a lot of times people see that big number and they're like, well, y'all got plenty of money. Yeah, but it's not for that. We can't utilize it for that, and let's educate you on why.
So just to follow up on that question, it can be looked at in the entire system, but how about, for instance, to ensure Burns Middle or Dickson County or Creekwood, that those monies that those particular schools are allotted, that those are accounted for and spent wisely? How would you go about?
Again, having that, our director over, our finance director over our bookkeepers there. Obviously we do, we do audits every year for that. So making sure, following up, because if the audit catches something, then now we know there's a problem and they need to be getting that issue resolved, making sure that it's being done properly. If it's something that we need to go talk directly to a teacher or a staff member because they're not allocating funds the right way or spending them in the right direction or not using the funds the way they need to be, obviously that's grounds to be fired right off the bat. I'm going to ensure that, first off, they understand that part of it, but also understand that, we need to make sure that that's not done that way. So
our board is dependent upon the county commission to fund the budget. How would you propose to gain their support? And just kind of in addition to that, what would be your strategy to build support for the budget that we come up with and or capital projects?
Communication with them. Again, not just during commission meetings, but getting out and talking to them. I know that I could sit in my office and ask them to come all the time. I've asked commissioners to come to schools, and, it's not always possible for them to do that for various reasons, but hunt them down if I have to. I feel like the director of schools is a little bit different than the principal in that role, is the fact that that is my job now. If I'm the director of schools, that would be my job. We're gonna have a chat. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be anything bad, but I just want you to be educated on what we're doing and know why we're doing these things and why we're even talking about this. Again, it may be one of those things that I changed my mind on too. And, I was like, all right, look, and I'm coming back to you guys and talking and saying, they're seeing it from this point of view. I can see where they're coming from. We might need to look at a different way of attacking that. So, I know I've hit relationships a lot, but I think the whole thing revolves around that relationship with everybody and being able to communicate and talk with them.
So I guess it gets back to what you'd said, I guess, earlier. If you're not afraid to hear the word no from the commission. No. Again,
if you don't ask, they can't tell you anything. Right? So that, to me, that's worse than being told no.
You can tell me no. I'm not going to wear it out of here. I'm come back to work tomorrow. We'll get back after it. We'll figure another way to do it. I don't mind being told no if it's something that we need. We're going to find a way to get it.
Okay. That's all.
Dr. Duke, the 8th ranked point of interest chosen by the survey, the public meetings, and the online survey states that the participants want a director who will foster support, confidence, and pride within the community for the school system through timely information sharing and providing meaningful opportunities to be involved.
Yes, sir.
So question number 1, how would you make certain the public knows and supports what's happening in our schools?
Again, we can continue with the stuff that we're doing is like we're trying to get information out in a gazillion different ways. Ultimately, I think the only thing that I could do and add to that to make it more effective is just to be out in the community. Again, if it's I'm going to meet at House Blend and we're going to drink coffee, I'm going to be there from 8 to 9 o'clock on Wednesday. If you have questions, come by and see me. Opening up avenues outside of here. I know that, I always hated this. I would offer people to come to the principal's office, right? And they remember their days back in school, and that's all they remember. And it was not a good thing to go to the principal's office. They're intimidated by that. And I try to assure them it's not intimidating. A lot of times I won't even sit behind my desk. When I come in, some of y'all when you come in, I may have sat behind my desk, but I think there was a conversation that you and I had. I didn't even get behind my desk. There was a reason for that. I don't want any look at like an intimidating factor with that. So coming to the central office to talk to the director of schools while he's sitting behind his desk, to me, can be very intimidating for quite a few people. So I got to put myself in spots where they're not intimidated. Obviously, they can come see me at the gym. Like I told y'all earlier, if y'all want to sit and eat pudding while I'm working out and wait and talk to me afterwards, hey, get on it. Wear it out. I'll give you somewhere to sit. We'll give you a nice chair to sit in while you're waiting. We'll figure a way to do it, but it's just being open to those conversations and having time available for that.
Interesting point you make. Years ago, I read a book that talked about executives behind the desk and mentioned round tables were there for a reason to even equality. And, it's not much of a choice we have up here, but we even talked about that as sitting facing each other or work sessions not looking so formal. So I certainly agree with you on that. Number 2, cite an instance in your current position that demonstrates your ability to build confidence in the schools. And I think that could be current position, the one you're at now, the one you've been in the last few years would be considered current. Where are you most comfortable with?
I think, obviously you can't please everybody. When you're the principal or when you're the director of schools, there is no way to please everybody. There are going to be people on both sides of whatever decision you make. I think track record speaks a lot for that. I mean, you talk to the members of the community of Burns, you talk to the members of the community of Creekwood, and I even feel like now, even Dickson County, I haven't been there long, but I think they are starting to see it. And even DIS, Dickson Intermediate School, talk to them about the community. I feel like they will tell you pretty quick, Corey was consistent and fair. He ran a tight ship, as I think I hear a lot. And it not necessarily that it gets back to being the consistent part of it. Again, if a rule one day is a rule and the next day it's a suggestion, then we're not being consistent in what we need to do. That breeds turmoil, but amongst the faculty, if you're doing that with faculty, it breeds discipline issues throughout the school if you're doing it towards the students. So I think that the track record that I have will speak volumes for that, of that consistency, the open doors, just the way that I've ran the schools in the past.
Number 3, have you been successful in getting strong parental and community support for a school, program, or district? And if so, tell us about one such success.
COVID has hurt that. Can I preface it with that? I know a lot of people are like, well, we just don't feel like we're involved. And it's like, it's kind of like, you start back, you're pulling the reins back and you're letting them back and forth. And I felt like the last few years at Burns were that way. And I hate it because I didn't get the involvement I felt like we needed. And, every year on my evaluation, that's where I put down the least for me, because there were so many restrictions on what we could do. Obviously, the last few years, like the last year, it was kind of back open where we could. But then, it was when somebody's sick, they're still in the mindset of a lot of people, they still are in that process of, if you're sick, don't come to school, don't be around it. So it's hard to open it back up for everybody. I felt like we were given a good fair shake for that. I was personally, I look at the spirit, Creekwood spirit, the Red Hawk spirit. When we took over, when I took over, that was still considered a sister school of Dickson County High School. We had some major changes, and now there's a lot of spirit for that school over there that wasn't there when we got it. And again, I'm not knocking anything prior to that. That was a hard boat to start up and get going and start a school and get some following behind it. But we had went as far as, alumni stuff at that time. We were about 10 years out. We started trying to do some alumni games for athletics, where those were the old timers. There's young kids still were coming back and playing alumni games. I look at Burns Middle School and see the amount of people that were involved with the stuff that we had. Athletics, we just didn't get a chance to open up a lot of opportunities for in-school stuff with there. So
I certainly see the effect that's had on other schools too. So maybe
yeah,
grow past that.
Well, I think the culture at Burns was great. I think the parents would bend over backwards to help me anytime I asked. I mean, it was there. I just think the mindset change, shift that happened after that. It's been difficult. I don't think it's lost. I think we can get it back. But it's definitely going to take some effort on our part to make sure that we're getting the parents involved. And not excluding just because they don't feel comfortable being around people or, whatever.
Thank you.
And criteria number 9 is a leader with successful experience in strategic planning, instruction, and curriculum development. So that's a big mouthful. How have you had a major responsibility in developing a school district strategic plan? And briefly discuss your role in that process.
Not really as much for strategic plans for district-wide, but school-wide. And I think that kind of pulls back to the old coach in me. When we definitely want to have alternatives for everything that we have. I'm already looking for replacements, people that I hear that are possibly leaving. Want to have conversations with them. It's not that I want them to leave. It may be for retirement purposes or whatnot, but definitely want to look at what we can do to continue programs, educating students and all that. So, if I were sitting back and I got my faculty list out, my lineup ready to go, and I don't have a backup plan for that, I'm not prepared my staff for where they need to be successful. And if my staff can't be successful, then our students can't be successful. So I've got to have plans in place for every aspect, contingency plans for who's coming up. Where are we going? What are we trying? How are we trying to get there? Alternative paths for that as well, because you never know when you're going to be told no for a budget request or whatever, okay, is that the end all be all? It better not be, because if it is, then we're in the wrong spot.
And what about your expertise in elementary curriculum?
Again, I taught physical education in elementary, and that was many moons ago. So, you know, this would be like me teaching calculus. I'll put it like that. I'm going to have to rely on those experts in there to fill me in on what's going on and how to be effective. I know enough about it to, I won't say be dangerous, but I don't know if they're pulling my chain with it or not. And then rely on those guys to make sure that they're putting what they need to forth. And again, it just becomes accountability on my part, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
So, like, would you develop like individual, say, first graders can't do the same thing as fourth graders in a school?
No.
So how would you implement things there?
As far as, so like curriculum wise, you know, let's say we were doing football. Obviously with the kindergartners and first graders, we're working on probably catching the football, throwing the football, you know, maybe running and trying to catch the football, basic skills for the game. As they get up to like fourth and fifth grade, maybe even third grade, they may be able to start understanding the concepts of how to line up and run a play. So they've mastered, or I won't say mastered, it takes a long time to master throwing a football, but they may know how to throw a football and can throw it to somebody accurately enough that they can at least try to catch it. So, you know, at that point, we're working on trying to get them into a spot where they can do that. So I know that it's a building block, and it's not something that we just throw out and say, hey, well, kindergartners are going to be doing X plus 3 equals 7 and trying to figure that out. They're not ready for that. They got to start with the building blocks of 1 + 1 is 2, you know, and we start working that way. So I do know enough about it from that standpoint to hopefully not. I hope that kind of.
So how does that carry into the secondary level then?
Kind of the same way. Again, to have somebody that's an expert K through 12 is going to be impossible. You know, I could hold my own in the PE department K through 12 because, you know, that was what I'm certified to do. But there are experts out there that we have in the school system. We're going to have to rely on those for different parts. You know, Dr. Marvin's over the secondary, Miss Adams is over the elementary school. So it starts there, and we start looking at how do we bring these guys together? What do we do? Talking with the principals, talking with the teachers. Those teachers are the experts on the standards, or better be the experts on the standards to know what's to be taught. How to teach that, you know, now we start talking about our instructional coaches to help with that and get them zeroed in on how to do that properly. Then it comes down to planning processes and stuff like that. Our principals are going to help with that. Instructional coaches are going to help with that. Miss Adams and Dr. Marr are going to help with that as well.
All right, thank you.
I have a follow-up on that.
Yes, ma'am.
You've talked a lot about depending on what the teachers or other leaders, that you depend on their knowledge and area and accountability. If you see that maybe a certain curriculum or path of instruction is not successful, what steps would you take to either make a change or hold somebody accountable?
So the first thing we're going to do is start getting some evaluations on that. Like, why is it? Trying to figure out what the deficit is. That's going to involve, you know, it may be an assistant principal, it may be myself, it may be instructional coach. Once we come up with what the deficit is, then it becomes let's start trying to work that out. In my mind, that is never a gotcha moment. A lot of people look at it as a gotcha moment. I'm trying to get you. I think that runs a lot of our educators out. Again, that relationship of, hey, we're here together to make you better is that's what I see that whole process being. We want to make them better. If I've got you in teaching, first off, I think you can do the job. Now we've got to zero in on that. On what can we do to make it better? Make your job easier. If you're effective in the classroom, it's an easier job. It's more fun. If I'm in there teaching and everybody's listening and I don't have a lot of disruptions going on, that's a fun job to have. If they're in there constantly disrupting and we've had some classroom management skills that we need to work on, that's an easy thing. That's an easy fix. We start looking at our instructional coach getting in there, making sure, first off, they have all the tools at their access for them to implement classroom procedures. Because a lot of times they may overlook one little thing and wonder why everything's getting big. Well, that little stuff is big if you don't enforce it every day, the consistency with that. So holding them accountable for that. Again, it's not a write you up kind of thing. If it's something as small as that, it's something we got to work through. So it's something that we've got to visit that classroom more often. We got to be in there with a teacher, ensuring them that they're heading in the right direction. Because they jump off to something different like that, then it becomes a fear of, is it going to work or not? Well, that consistency will show it, but sometimes it takes a while. Just like if you come in and we're trying to work out and I want you to bench 100 pounds, right? And we can't bench it to start with. Well, if we're not consistent and we continue to do that over and over again, we're never going to get to that. So it's the same thing in the classroom. If we have somebody with a discrepancy, then it's my job to coach them up and lead them the way they need to. It may not be me directly. It may be me telling or asking somebody else to get in that classroom, make sure you're in there, that teacher doesn't drown. Then I'm holding them accountable to be in there, which in turn holds everybody accountable. But it all starts with that relationship of, I'm not here to get you. We're here to make you better.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that? As a PE teacher and as a math teacher, would you encourage them to do better in different ways? Or is there a one size fits all when trying to encourage or to grow your teachers?
Well, there's not a one size fits all anyway. Subject to subject is going to be different. What's impactful for one subject may not, like, having the kids up running around trying to do math. Sometimes it's hard, especially when you're trying to do algebra, right? So that, that's going to be some different avenues, personalities from the teachers. When I walk into a room, it gets quiet. Just size intimidation with a lot of kids, especially depending on the age group. They get quiet just when they see me enter the room, whereas again, not discriminating or anything of that nature, but a smaller lady walking in is not going to have the same impact as I am on just classrooms when they walk in. So having to learn ways for them to be effective. So there's not a one size fit all for everybody. Like, this is the cookie cutter way to do it, man. This is it. This is it. There isn't one. So we've got to figure out what's impactful, what works for that teacher, for each teacher. And sometimes that's a struggle at times. Some of the stuff that they can get, like, I've seen teachers that have done stuff and are very great at it, and the class listens, and I'm like, I would do the same thing and it wouldn't work. Or I'd be in big trouble. I've seen teachers say, I'm going to pinch your head off, get over there and sit down. I say that and I'm getting written up, and Hillary Hall's talking to me.
Yeah.
So, it's knowing your crowd and knowing, how to handle that and being able to get that in. So,
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, number 10. I've got the fun ones. This has to do with your ability to effectively work with a school board and enhancing that reputation and relationship and effectiveness of that board. First question is, explain what you have done to build and maintain a good relationship with your board.
Obviously, we're going to start with the first one that I didn't. I wasn't effective. I'm not always going to be effective. Nobody's perfect, and I hope that we can move past that. I know that I came in front of you guys back in July about a dress code issue, and that I misread the policy for that, and just assumed as opposed to asking. So, with that being said, I've learned that if again, I don't want to be not transparent. I don't want it to come off as disrespectful or anything like that, but my job now is to make sure y'all understand, like, where I'm coming from with it earlier on.
So being upfront with you guys about that. Obviously, if in my mind, as a director of schools as opposed to a principal is a lot different from dealing with the board. From a directors of schools point of view, it's not that necessarily I would ever feel like you guys are infringing on what I should be doing if you're talking to a principal. I would love for you to talk. I would love for you all to be in the schools and talk with the principals one-on-one without any influence from me so that you get a just idea of what I'm doing. There would be a difference on my part here is like now I would be in contact with you guys about simple stuff because may not necessarily be on the leadership team, but would definitely be a portion of what I would do before I made a call. So, I know the big news right now is the snow Monday night that we're supposed to have. I know that y'all would probably entrust me to make a good call. But guess what? I'm fixing to call you guys as well. And I may say, hey, what does it look like out there at your way? So that I can make an informed call. And also on top of that, y'all are informed of what's going on. So you're not getting blindsided with a phone call with what all's going on.
Let me just follow up on that and ask you this. What is the job of the school board, in your opinion?
To hold the director of schools accountable to perform his job through the policies that we've developed, to make sure that I am held accountable. I hope this. I don't want it to sound like you're my boss kind of thing, but somebody's got to hold me accountable to make sure that all of the funds are being spent in the right direction. That we have somebody's holding me accountable for our policies and making sure that our policies are getting updated as they needed to be. Just kind of a governance for what I'm doing or would be doing.
Give me just a minute. How do you keep up with the educational research and initiatives to assist in preparing options and to give recommendations to the board?
Obviously, there are state issues that come in with that. We're gonna do our research to start with. I want to know. All right, this right here is the greatest thing that's coming in. What can we do with it? So the first thing I'm going to do is read about it, try to figure out as much as I can and make some phone calls around different districts that may be running it, different principals that have actually sat in the seat while those issues are coming through, and try to come up with a game plan to come to you guys. Again, I don't think that that's something that like the first time we hear about it is in a board meeting. I think it's something that, like, as the process is going on, keeping you guys enlightened with what's going on, what we're seeing with this research, so that y'all are informed as well about what we're looking at, why we're looking at it. Because I know that sometimes that information leaks out, information gets turned around, people have misconceptions about it. You guys would be able to answer those questions. So definitely not keeping you in the dark with those things. Trying to enlighten and let you know what we've found out so far as we're going through the process.
I'm not going to ask you number 3. I think what you just said kind of covers that as well. That would be somewhat redundant.
Gotcha.
Let me ask you this. It's our job as a board to be here and interview and bring forth a new superintendent. And, I've heard you a lot about talking about building morale and support and what have you. So let me ask you this. Will you support the new director if it's not you?
Yes, sir. This is...
Will you continue to build that morale and support if it is not you?
Yes, sir. I told somebody I've kind of been blessed. I was like, right now I'm sitting at Dickson County High School, which is another dream job I've had to be the high school principal where I went to school at. So, I'm in a win-win situation. And again, it's nothing, I don't take it as a personal thing.
you guys, I know y'all have said, hey, you're in a unique spot right here getting this interview. I think y'all are probably, I see your side more than I see mine. And I know the phone calls and text messages that I've gotten, I can only imagine what y'all have gotten. And then you throw in emails as well, and I can only imagine what you have. You throw on top of that, I'm a Dickson County resident. You're not kicking me out of this county. I can guarantee you that. So I don't foresee a problem with that. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability. Integrity comes to mind. I'm still going to do the same job at Dickson County High School as I would at Dickson County Board office. And that's going to be the hardest I can to get it done.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty and your integrity there. Anybody else on 10?
Number 11.
Hold on.
Is there 11?
Oh,
Sorry, Mr. Hager.
I forgot about 11.
yeah, Mr. Haley, he said 10.
Okay.
He can't count.
Getting fingers.
I got to take my shoes off at times.
They're all.
That's why we got a board up here.
Describe your experiences managing multiple products at one time and the strengths that you bring to that experience.
So when we opened up Burns Middle School, the first day we got to step in that building was 6 days before it opened. There was still construction going on. I don't know if y'all remember this at all. Kirk May, I don't know, Steve, Mr. Haley May. So we had 6 days. I think the first 4 or 5 of those days, we had to park at Stewart Burns Elementary School and get on a bus, and they were only running them at certain times. And we had to open that school in 6 days. People kept looking at me going, our teachers are panicking. First off, they don't have anything on the walls. And if you know teachers and their classroom's not prepared for the first day, they freak out. We had sports programs starting up, 6, 5 in the fall that were getting started the first day of school. Some of them were already practicing. So look at all the management stuff that we had with that. We had sports teams getting started. We didn't have jerseys until the day before our first football game, which was on in August. There was a lot of stuff going on at one time. The best way to do that was for me, obviously I had a lot of things to do as well. I mean, we didn't know how the car riders were going to come through. We didn't know a lot of stuff. The buses were coming around where the car riders were at, so it still wasn't even going to function the same as it was once we got everything paved. We probably could have pushed to get school pushed back and held for a couple of days, but that was not in my plan. I didn't even question that. Dr. Weeks told me this is the day we're opening. That's the day we're opening. So motivating everybody to first off, relax, calm down. You got this. Y'all are professionals. Handle it. What do you need to get there? And finding the resources they needed to get there. Obviously, I couldn't have my hand on everything. There was too much stuff to have. So again, delegating that out, holding people accountable to get their portion done, and everybody came together to get it done. I don't know a better explanation of how to manage a lot of stuff going on at one time than that.
Perfect. What do you consider the top 3 assets for helping schools with achievement levels? What does it look like?
First off, we got to get the teachers what they need, whether that's classroom support, materials. Obviously, sometimes materials get into budget issues, ways around that they may not be able to look at or see from where they're sitting. So you've got to set a spot up where the teachers can be successful. Once they're successful, their confidence in the way they're teaching the class rises. We got to have students that have consistent expectations for them in the classroom and in the school, so that they know what to expect when they walk into the classroom, each classroom. And third, I think all of that revolves around relationships with those people. If we don't have a good relationship with them where they feel like they can come talk to me of a need, then we're just as bad as if if they had asked and I didn't get it to them. So we've got to have a combination of those three things. We've got to set the teachers up to be successful, the students up to be successful, and the best way to do all of that is for the relationships.
What makes the United States of America the greatest country on earth?
Oh, man. It's the land of the free. I mean, any dream that you have can be accomplished. The great thing about America is a free education. Anybody and everybody is able to have a free education. Education is what separates you from everybody else. I tell kids this all the time when they come into my office and they're down on themselves. And they're down in their classrooms. I was like, look, life at home's not great right now. And they look up and, it's like, how do you know? I can tell just your demeanor. Things are bad at the house for whatever reason. This is your opportunity to get out of that. Education is your opportunity to leave that. This is a chance for you to change the path that your family has gotten you on and better yourself with. Where else can you do that? There's nowhere else that you're given that opportunity. All you have to do is take advantage of it. So all we have to do is give our children in this county that opportunity. And it's not just giving them that opportunity, but in preaching that and instilling that. This is your chance. Change it. Okay. You don't like the way Dickson County is right now? I think I had this conversation with a couple of boys up there. They didn't want to go into the bathroom. Well, why not? Bad things going in the bathroom, vaping, fights and all that. And I was like, okay, we've got to change that. We've already got some wheels in process that we're doing at Dickson County. In the 6 weeks I've been there, we've already started it or about to start this. It's called Move to Stand. It's teaching the kids leadership skills. Is basically what it's doing. How do you handle that? If you are about to get in a fight with Mr. Underwood in the bathroom, I'm teaching my guys up there how to grab you and pull you out of the situation where there's no fight. Saves you guys. Y'all didn't have anything to do with it, but I've taught a leader in the building. Now he's taking that out of the community. So, that leadership skill, again, giving them the opportunity to make this community better. And that's what makes America so great.
Thank you.
Mr. Haley?
I had one final question. Why do you want to be the director of Dickson County Schools?
My dad called me last night. Try not to get upset about this. Sorry. I played ball, probably could have been playing professional baseball. Play at the plate, happened on March the 6th, 2001. Took me out. My dad met the coach at the door. My coach actually met my dad at the door and told him, the Lord has a different path for him. But we didn't know it at the time. I get out and start getting into education. Luckily, I lined myself up to do that. A lot of my college was dedicated to baseball. But luckily, I was smart enough to have a contingency plan and started in education. Well, I saw pretty quick that the leadership in the classroom to me wasn't what I wanted. I wanted more. I wanted to be able to impact more people. I love Dickson County. Born and raised here. I decided to go back and get my master's. The first question they asked me is like, why do you want your master's? And the question that answer was, I want to be the director of schools at Dickson County. I haven't shared that with a lot of people. That's a pretty rough subject for me to talk about. But that is the ultimate goal that I've had since that incident, I guess, if you want to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other follow-up questions?
Something a little lighter.
That sounds simple, doesn't it?
No, it's not.
What position did you play?
I was a catcher.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was where it all ended, at the plate. So, yeah.
And for fairness, I'd heard that answer before, but I wanted him to hear it too. I know it's been a couple of years. And I appreciate the way you answered that question, and also the others that were asking me too.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You have any closing comments you want to make?
Not really any comments. Had a couple of questions. I don't know if that's appropriate for this or not. This is a different interview process than I've ever done. I did have a few questions. I don't know if those are appropriate to answer or ask even in front of here for you guys.
I think an interview, you can interview us too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, not just talking from my spot right now, but as a member of this community, what do you see as a successful director? What is a successful director going to accomplish?
Well, probably the first thing the community is going to say is because of the letter grades for schools, because that's a hot topic right now. So I think that is a concern or question that a director of schools is going to have to address.
One of the things that a school board does, or our school board does, or is supposed to do, is we meet every year and we get together, come up with a list of goals and objectives that we want to be fulfilled. We hand that off to you as our employee. We say, hey, here's our goals and objectives. This is what we want done. And then we will help you any way that we can to be successful at your job. So, you know, a lot of it goes back to, and you've been reiterating it all the way through, is just working with people. You know, everybody up here is different. You know, if we never, and I've said this before to our school board, and I've said this to Mr. Weeks when he was here. It's if we never came together and came up with a goal of objectives for our director to do, it's very hard on the director, because then he is trying to please 6 individual bosses, because these people up here are your boss. And if he's got a goal in mind that he wants done through the year, he's got a goal. He's got, you know, everybody has a different goal. I think that sets you up for failure. So as your boss, it's incumbent upon us to come together and come up with that list of goals and objectives that we want to see. Just like Sonia said, hey, we got to get our letter grades up. Our letter grades are terrible in some of these schools. And so we're here to help. You know, that'll be one of our key goals that we can help you, or whoever the director is, you know, accomplish.
Last, but I do want, that's a good question, and hearing the answers, I don't disagree with them, but like Mr. Underwood said, there's 6 individual people, and even from the community, we hear a lot, or I hear a lot from the community, I'm sure they do too, and this interview process is unique in the fact that individually, we're not hiring somebody. As a group, we are. So we have to deliberate that in public, in front of the ones here, in front of the ones there, and there's a lot of them. But I continue to see the public response of, why does the board pick a director? Why don't the people? It's set by state law. And the board is not necessarily educators. While Mr. Chadwick has an education background, we come up from a vast array because the school board has duties. It's approve a budget. It is hire a director. It is to set policy. It is to approve tenure. And that basically covers it. But none of us individually have that power. You and I have discussed that before, but it's brought forth in an official meeting. And to bring the public's input to us to bring to the school system is what the board's for. So as an employee of the board, that planning is essential, and it's not always what we want, but it's what a director advises we should want or maybe shouldn't want, along with the objectives and the goals and the ideas that come from the public through the board. So all that being said, it is a process that's probably a little bit foreign to a lot of people that are just watching to see how Dr. Duke does on an interview or how one of the other three does on an interview. There's a lot that made this up, including the public that put together this list of questions, this list of criteria that guides us through that. Although the last questions were more our individual thoughts, this is what the community asked us to do. So that, tied with the powers that are allowed or given by the state, is our only job, and that is to have a director to oversee that.
I almost had the one to go last, but
I'll go.
He went before me. to answer your question, to shadow everything he just said, when you answered a question saying that to oversee the director and to oversee the director on the budget and oversee the director on policy, you hit the nail on the head minus the approving tenure. That is the three of the four things that the board does. And I think that what I want to see in a director is when we as a board come up with a plan, we want a director to be on board with our plan and we want to move forward with that plan. Doesn't mean we're always going, it's a plan, just like a budget's a plan. Doesn't mean we're going to hit our plan. We got to have a plan. We got to have a goal. We need to all move forward on that goal together. And as you said before, when we reach that goal, we got to set another one, and we got to keep moving forward as a board and director together. So that's what I'd like to see.
I've been under 6 different superintendents or directors or whatever in my 39 years here. I'm sitting here with 3 former students, and when we go to board or go to state meetings and things, and we talk about in a meeting, or talk to somebody else about the board, and I make that remark, they go, "What? We have a unique board." Like Joe said, we all have differences. I mean, different fields of occupations. So how would you cultivate the relationship of, say, the central office staff with the board?
Again, just me personally, I like kind of bring it back to the pitching staff. I mean, we had guys from all over the world coming in and pitching for our staff. You guys have unique backgrounds, which in my mind is not a bad thing at all. It's actually a great thing because now I get to see stuff from different perspectives. Again, it's presenting information, being upfront with you, letting you see everything, and maybe even telling you, I'm going to play the devil's advocate on some stuff just to see, so you see the other side of it. And they come bring that all together. Again, it's not I don't feel like it's a right or wrong thing whatsoever. There is no right answer when you're talking about a person. There's better answers. To say that something is right or wrong for what somebody does is, to me, is not right. That might not be the best way to do it. There's a better way to do it. So, trying to get all that information together and bring it together would be one thing that I see that we would need to do, not just amongst us here, but amongst our central office staff as well. So I think it's a calm, collected teamwork kind of thing.
Anybody else? I'm done with all the questions. Do you have any other questions that you wanted to ask us?
I know we talked about communication from me to you. What do you see yourself in your communication to me? If I were named the director of schools, constant. That's great. That's great. That's what I hope it is. I hope that communication is whenever and however you need to see fit to do. So that's all the questions I had. I don't know if y'all want to anything else.
Thank you, Dr. Duke. We appreciate it. The next Interview we'll have be tomorrow night at 6:30. And I hope to see some of you back.
Right.
Thank you. We adjourn.